Hello and welcome to our discussion on causality. Some people call this causation. I have only a couple of concepts to add to what your textbook talks about, or rather to expand on. Your textbook talks about the whole idea of sufficient cause. And with sufficient cause, what that means is that in general, for most things, there are several different aspects that would cause a specific outcome. And so I'll just label them here, A, B, C, D, E, and F. And if we had perfect knowledge, we would know for any given individual what the things were that caused that particular outcome to occur. And it could be a good outcome or a bad outcome. We typically think about causality in terms of disease, but causality can be for other things such as death or wellness or other things like that. So using this for a disease model, let's say we have person number one. Person number two is very likely to have a different combination. They may only have two or three things, A, C, G, and H. And these things that I'm labeling with the alphabet letters really are the risk factors that somebody may have, and they fall into several different general categories. It could be that they're genetic things. It could be that they are lifestyle related, choices that individual people make. It might even be the environment that a person is living in, or they may be social factors, social influences that are around them in their particular circle that influence them. Now, the interesting thing about causality is you'll notice that a number of different pieces of these factors, D, E, and F, are present in one but not in the other. And so here we have G and H that are present for number two but not in person number one. And so these are contributing factors, but they are not necessary in order for that particular disease to occur. There are very few things, individual factors that are necessary causes. Even when we think about, say, lung cancer, there are people who get lung cancer. It's rare, but people who get lung cancer who have never been exposed to tobacco smoke. And so tobacco smoke is probably going to be an important factor for the vast majority of people who get lung cancer, but it is not a necessary cause. Necessary means that it's required. Now, in order to get tuberculosis, you actually must be exposed to the tuberculosis bacillus. And so you can't get tuberculosis without having that particular exposure. So infectious disease is one of the exceptions to that. For example, you cannot get the flu without being exposed to the flu virus. So that is a necessary piece of the causal pie, so to speak, for influenza. Now, the other thing is that it would be very rare for one particular item, let's say A only by itself, to be what's called sufficient cause. And so for that just all by itself to be sufficient to cause something, because what that means is that every single time any person is exposed to that if that is a sufficient cause, then that would cause disease. Usually any particular thing is paired up with, say, maybe you're exposed to something, but then you have some sort of a genetic predisposition. Let's pick another letter, maybe I. So even genetic predisposition really needs to be there often in order for a particular disease to occur. So what ends up happening is we call these things sufficient cause models. And again, this is the whole idea that if we had perfect knowledge, then we would be able to say that A, C, G, and H caused some particular disease in this particular person. And what that also means is that if we can take one of these and get rid of it, and this is the basis often for health education, if we can say, well, maybe for that one person it was eating processed meats. We know that processed meats are associated with a variety of different diseases. Or maybe there's even a piece of the sufficient cause that is lack of something, like lack of fiber. And so if this is lack of fiber, if we add fiber for that specific person, then that would have prevented the disease. And so that's sort of the underlying idea behind being able to affect a person's health and help them to be healthier, is that we are having an impact on these particular different pieces of the pie. The sufficient cause model. So that is a summary of some of the additional things that I wanted to share with you about causality. Thank you for joining me.